recording. Look, we all have one. I'm so glad you guys are here.
Thanks for the invite.
My pleasure. I'm so glad. And I'm Patty. I don't know if you know Sarah. So, Sarah, you want to tell us a little bit about you and your book?
Yeah, and hi, Patty and I have had the pleasure of meeting, so I'm happy to see you again and talk to you again.
You can't ever tell anybody that I show up to these things or else we'd be bombarded. So cut that from your video feed, Robin S. Pollock.
It's going to go all over the internet on my TikTok, Facebook,
No, keep
YouTube.
going. I didn't mean to
That.
interrupt. Carry
It's
on.
a very big secret.
Yeah, so yeah, just as a reminder, my book is called Swaddled, and its mission is to support new mothers in basically just being honest about how it really is versus how society paints it to be. So
Love
just
that.
looking at honest conversations, and
I love that.
am so just excited about your forum, Robin,
Oh,
and
thank you.
the opportunity to have like another, for lack of a better word, pod or posse, right? Because we
Posse.
really,
I like posse.
we really can't get enough of that. So yeah.
I think that when you are in a creative space within yourself, the best people to be around are other people that are creative because they can see things beyond what's two-dimensional. And that's actually what makes us creative, I think. And
Yeah.
whether you think you're tuning into your intuition or you don't, I'll disagree, because I personally think that being creative means you're actually tapping into it in that way. And I don't think that everybody considers that. But if you think about it, when you're on a flow of writing or if you're in the zone in baseball or football, I feel like you are actually connecting to this higher version of yourself. And that's how that goes. I mean, people will argue with me. They'll tell me, no, the zone in baseball is because they've practiced so much. So they're in the zone. And I'm like, yeah, but if you didn't have the ability to merge your talent with the focus, you wouldn't be in the zone. Right? So,
And by the way,
it's cool. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yep.
no, I was just gonna say, by the way, the zone varies by umpire. So, it's not the same.
Not
But
the same.
like you're saying about what we see, what we can see or tend to see in ourselves is so often different, and I think sometimes limited. Like I can see so much beauty and potential and all good things in Patty. But when it comes to my lens, my Sarah lens, we see things differently. And so I'm with you, Robin. When we all come together, I think we bring our individual energies into the collective, and that I think can be nothing but good. So again, total opportunity as I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also that's a muscle we get to stretch because it's so easy to be negative on ourselves. It's almost like a trained muscle. I was going to ask Patty something, but now she left. So
Bye-bye. Yeah.
Still here.
But,
there was a car alarm going off, and I thought it was
no. Okay. So what I was going to say is what's super cool is that I feel like Patty has another book coming out really soon. And so that's super cool too that we get to celebrate. And I really hope that after September, we all get to pick, you guys get to pick a time when you can come on and you have a little code that you could sell your book when we talk about your book here. And then you could share that on wherever you want to share it on your platform and invite the people who you want to see you talk about your book into this space. Because I think that the more we have creative people coming together from all different backgrounds, the richer this actually gets to be. because my vision really was, I wanted to speak about my book, but I also wanted everybody else to have an opportunity to speak about what they're writing about, even if it's not published. But if it is published, like share it here and get it out there and let people buy it and let people know about it. That's the only way it gets out. Look, you can ask Patty, but I take my book with me everywhere. It's like a pocketbook. I take it.
You just have to have a purse big enough. Yeah.
I just take it. Sometimes I leave it in the car, but I just take it. So, it's just the way it goes. So, I don't know, Patty, if you want to share anything at the end, after we talk a little bit about this, about your upcoming book, if you want to give us a little hint. I've been dying to know what happens in the
I know,
in the
you're
third.
killing me. It's okay. Yes, I'd be glad
That's
to.
really what's going on here. I want the tea on what's going on in the third book.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just be very honest. But anyway, I don't usually, what I do is I thumb through the book and I find what's speaking to me. But when Patty hopped on, she said she had a question. So I'll go with the question first. And if you have a question, feel free to share your question too, Sarah.
Perfect. So my question was directly related to what we've just been chatting about, which is chapter 38. Look at the title of chapter 38. It says, a thought is just a thought until you put your voice behind it.
Oh, well,
yeah. And I really want to know how you came up with that and what caused you to write that, because there's so many people in the world who don't put their voice behind the content that they're creating. It's almost like a facade of content, And I really wanted to know what made you put that in the book, and how you came up with that whole idea for a chapter, if you don't mind sharing that.
No,
nothing like jumping right in. Chapter 30.
I don't mind sharing, but I think you're going to be surprised. And I always feel like this information may surprise you, because I've sort of said that I've been intuitive my whole life. I've shared that. And many times I had thoughts, but I actually didn't put my voice behind those thoughts because I wasn't sure if I could trust them. And many times I had ideas, but I didn't believe in myself enough and think that they had enough value to share them. And so growing up, I didn't really think that my ideas had value and worth. Plus, I wasn't necessarily convinced that they were good ones. So for a long time, I would pass my ideas off as though they belonged to another person. You too. And I would tell my stepmother that this one thought of it, or that one thought of it, or the other one thought of it. And then when they liked it, I'd be like, that would be a code for me to go, oh, that was good. That was a good one. The problem with that is I couldn't then claim it. I couldn't claim it. I couldn't claim it as mine. I couldn't claim it as something that I thought of, something that I believe that it was mine, and where that thought all came from. So that was the first round of that. And I always say, lots of times in life, we have reruns of things when we haven't really resolved the actual issue. Okay, I talk about that a lot in my book. And one of the things that I want to say was a rerun was this whole idea that a thought is just a thought until you put your voice behind it. And when I was a speech therapist, so many times I was working with kids that actually couldn't put their voice behind it because they had CP, because they had MS, because they were apraxic, because they had problems with stuttering, or they were stutterers, or because they had, they just actually couldn't speak because they had issues with their vocal cords. So it was like an actual physical thing that they really or they were hearing impaired. They actually couldn't put their voice behind it. And I think over the years of me working with those people, I sort of had an appreciation of the fact that that wasn't me, that I actually had my voice, but also an appreciation of when I gave them the ability by working with them in therapy and they had that voice, what it did to the relationship of their family, how it changed the relationship with their mother, with their siblings, with their friends, that they got friends, and also how they saw themselves, the pride they had, and all of those things. And I really felt fortunate. And that was the reason actually why I stayed in speech for as long as I did, because I just felt like I can do this for these kids, for these families. And I just felt like it really was a gift to be able to do it. And you know, when you do these kind of professions, you're not doing it to make the money. I wish I could say that that went together, but it doesn't. So because I didn't know how to do a touchdown or get a ball in the hoop, I wasn't making six-figure salary. Some might say what I was doing was more important, but the world, as it were, doesn't. And so, you know, what happens is when you feel like your value isn't meeting what you're offering, for me anyway, I started to feel that less of a value piece again. And I needed to do something so that I could find it again. What I didn't realize was, and I think this is the whole juxtapose of this book, this chapter, is that the value and the worth had to come from inside of me. It wouldn't have made a difference if I mean, I'm not going to tell you it didn't make a difference if I would have made more money. That would have been nice. But I probably still would have had an issue with the value. And so I just want to read this beginning part to you. If you turn off the outside voices and just proceed, I heard voices in the quiet, as if someone turned on a personal radio station in my head for so long. They taunted me more than soothed me. When I was quiet, or while I was running and dancing and even showering, I would even dread it at times, since I didn't know how to make them stop. I never told this to my family or my friends. I wasn't really sure what they were going to think about me, or, you know, how they would view me. And the truth is, I didn't know how to turn it on or off until I was in my 50s. And I met somebody who showed me. Because when you're in grade school and wherever, middle school, even high school, college, there is no course that teaches you how to do any of this. It really isn't. And I never met a person. And it's funny because I went to a couple of psychics myself over the years, and none of them actually knew that I was psychic. They were, and I'm not saying they were limited, but a lot of them are very egoic in nature, in terms of the fact that they're on a mission. This is what I'm here to do. You're here for me to read you. I will read you. And I think when you get somebody who's able to sort of go beyond, many of them would tell me, well, you're intuitive yourself, but that's as far as it went. And then they would do like a reading. On the other hand, I didn't ask. I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that. What do I do about it? And honestly, I think that that was because of fear. Because I didn't know what I was going to get myself involved with. And I think that the person that I actually had to convince that I actually was intuitive, that those things were real, that the voices I was hearing were real, was not everyone else. I thought it was everyone else. The person I had to convince was myself. And so when I created that whole Connect Back to You challenge that I do and all of that, to me, those are the baby steps that you need to actually start to evolve your own intuition, that you can lean on it as if you would a best friend. You know, you have an emergency, you call your best friend on the phone, help me through this. But instead of doing that, asking yourself and trusting that you actually will have the wherewithal to be able to decipher what to do. That's a scary proposition for me, because I was so used to looking at all these other people. What about you guys? Can you come off mute and just tell me what you think about that?
I mean, I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people hide behind it. And you're right. There's nobody who teaches a lot of skills, a lot of just how to be a spiritual being in a human body type of how do you walk this experience that you're having. They don't teach you that. You can do math, but they don't teach you the other stuff.
Right.
So I wonder if a lot of people actually have like mad skills and they're hidden from the world. Do you know what I mean?
believe that we all have them, but I just think we are taught to tap them down. And I think that's really survival, to be very honest, from when we were born, because we were taught so much to look outside of ourselves at, you know, if I'm crying this way, mommy's going to come. If I'm moving this way, mommy's going to smile. If I walk this way and crawl this way, look at that, they're clapping for me. So you're always taught to look outside of yourself to gauge as to what you're doing as being good or bad. And then it goes to the teacher, right? In grade school, in middle school, you go from getting checks and stars to getting check marks on your paper. And then we get out of college and all of a sudden we don't get it anymore. And you wonder what you did wrong, right? And so sometimes you get a boss who'll say you're doing a great job, but lots of times you don't. You only hear what's negative. And you start to question what you're doing and if you're good at what you're doing, because the only thing you're hearing is negative. Sometimes you hear positive. And that's, I think, the journey that people are on usually is when they start working, to start having to go within themselves and sort of know, oh, wait a minute, this is actually what I did was good. Like I can believe that it's good. You know what I mean? But I think that so many times we are led down this path where we are looking at everybody else. I mean, and women are notorious this. And like when we go shopping, you're asking everybody else, people, strangers, you like this bathing suit on me? You don't even take it off. Yeah. Right. Because asking yourself just doesn't seem safe. And I think that's actually what we need to change. I think we need to change that whole perspective, that actually asking yourself first is where you should start. And then you can get like-minded people to agree with you or disagree with you. But if it doesn't work for you, then what's the difference if it works for everyone else?
This is so interesting because I think a lot of people live from their mind and live analytically with their mind, making all the decisions. And at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, I think if people live from their heart, it wouldn't be that way. And people would realize, wait a minute, somebody made all these rules up. So if that rule doesn't work for me, we can change it. Why are you telling me that it?
And
like,
it's really funny
what
that
are
you say that,
telling me?
because guess what the affirmation is for this chapter? I am the creator of my life.
I know, I picked the chapter.
Yeah. She was the question.
Yeah. So I mean, and that's a mind blower too, right, Sarah? I mean, what do you think of that?
I don't think that any of this is accidental or coincidental. I went for a walk yesterday afternoon and I know I uttered it out loud, you know, not so anyone who might have been passing could hear it, but I was committing to the universe that I was going to turn off, and I actually made this gesture. I was going to turn it off up here because I was looking for answers. I had two specific junctures that I was hoping for feedback on, and I had turned them over every which way in my mind and was getting nowhere, right? And so I agree with you 100%, Patty, and I would connect this sub conversation back to a note that I made when you were talking, Robin, which is about the concept of feedback. We are creatures who crave feedback. I think I have a particular predilection toward the need, you know, for feedback. And when it's not there, it is uncomfortable, right? And so we do have a choice to determine whose feedback is important to us and will serve us. And so I think also when you were talking, Robin, life is busy and it's so loud. And I too believe that I am intuitive. I'm somehow wanting to disclaim it by saying to some extent, right? We're all intuitive, period. And
We are.
our ability to check in with that, to appreciate it, to use it, I think is handicapped by the loudness and the noise around us. And so just for myself, I mean, I've had attractions to things, I've had thoughts that I haven't put my voice to. And it's taken me until almost 50 to pay attention now and to say these things haven't gone away. They keep popping up. They're not accidental, they're not coincidental. Something is happening here. And I just wanted to hop on Patty's comment to say I think it's on us to turn off the noise to be able to connect.
I think you're right. But I also think just something to consider. I used to think that I needed to just turn it all off, right? And now I sort of look at it from another perspective. What if all the noise was on? All the noise was on, but we only tuned into the things that complemented what we believe.
Right.
Instead of tuning into all the things that knock us down. And so by saying that, what I'm saying is people talk about triggers, and I've sort of shifted the word into glimmers.
Yeah, I
Because
love that.
when something hits you and it feels like it's like eating your insides out, that feeling, to me, that's a glimmer, because it's a light telling you to look at your feelings. I think we're so used to, when something hits us, to shove it down, to not react, to not get emotional, to not respond, to just sort of like almost be like, I want to say like Superman crashing right into your chest, you know, and that you're just going to take it, you're going to brace. But, you know, everything doesn't always have to be like this conflict and always be so difficult. Sometimes we have to look at things like, well, the universe actually wants our back, has our back. The universe wants us to succeed. So maybe these glimmers are little lights of lessons for us to go, well, I don't know if I'm going to believe that. Well, I don't know if that's really what I'm thinking. Or, you know, I don't really like that, you know, so I'm not going to go for that. Right? And the more you start to sort of do that, it's almost like if you would imagine going to, I always go back to ice cream. I don't know why, but it's almost like if you went to an ice cream store with 35 flavors and they gave them all to you, you wouldn't even blink. I don't like this one. I don't like that one. I like this one, because you're really not hurting anybody's feelings. You know, when you say that, the ice cream owner doesn't care, you know, just buy something, right? So if you almost looked at every idea that all these people had, all these things, these opinions that people have, like little ice cream flavors out there, and not worry that you're hurting somebody's feelings by disagreeing or not taking it or thanking them for that. Thank you for your opinion, but then going to do it your own way, you know? And I think I even did it with an editor. I had an editor at the beginning with my first book, and it was so not working with who I was. But instead of saying the editor's not working, I stopped writing for 7 months. I just stopped. And then I got another editor and everything was like completely different.
Yeah.
And instead, and everything that it was really almost funny, because everything the other person didn't like, the other one was like, oh, it's amazing. So I just was like, and it was just a sign to me again, how when something doesn't feel right, instead of thinking it's me, maybe go look and see if that's the way it is everywhere. But was so trained and used to thinking, well, I must be wrong, that I just assumed it was me. I assumed that it was what I was doing, you know? Sarah, are you frozen? Oh, there you are. Oh.
It's funny. I don't know. I was gonna say you ladies were frozen, but now I see it's on my side. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But I
So-
heard everything that you said, and it's aspirational to me. I'm sitting here nodding. Oh, yes, yes, makes total sense. And also will take practice, and that's okay.
Right. 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 And the thing about it is, I think it's a muscle
Yeah.
that we get to build on, you know, and instead of thinking, you know, I'm not a big exercise guru. I don't know about the two of you, but I'm really not. And
Guru.
not at all. But like yesterday, I went to the pool, right? And I swam 10 laps. We're talking side stroke. You know, I'm not, oh, hi. Oh, let me say hi. Oh,
So this-
hi.
Yeah.
Oscar?
Tucker.
Tucker. Hi, Tucker.
Yeah. Sorry for the distraction, but
No,
he
no,
was,
no. You should come to the next Furry Side chat.
he was on his feet and he wanted to participate. So I apologize.
No, don't. Otis is right on the floor there.
He is.
Oh, hi, Otis.
But don't you think, Robin, getting back to your point, don't you think that sometimes the community you're in also forces that decision? Like you could be in a community where they use words like, oh, that's a trigger, or oh, this is the only tool you can use to do this. And that's not true either. And sometimes if you can get out of that, you can release yourself from that and allow that, whatever it is, to bubble up and move along.
Well, you also, I think that what happens is when you're part of a group and you don't feel aligned with what the group was, especially if you were part of a group, and then the group sort of just moves along, and then there's this other conversation going on, and you feel not aligned with what they're talking about now. You don't feel like you don't think that way, or you're not thinking about that way anymore. You know what I mean? Like you have another
That's what I mean. Like you've grown or something and they haven't.
right. And they're sort of all stuck in that old thinking.
Yeah.
Or in the thinking that where you were maybe 5 years ago, but now you've sort of evolved to this other level of thinking.
Yeah.
I think you have to, well, first of all, not judge them for being where they are, but at the same time, acknowledge the fact that you are in a different place.
Yes,
then
and
you
that's scary. That takes courage to acknowledge to yourself that.
That actually is easier. The harder part is asking yourself if you're ready to go. That's what's scary. The harder part is asking yourself to go. And it's almost like that feeling when you came home from college, if you went to college, or if you left home and then you came back and you sort of just don't feel like you belong there anymore.
Yeah.
But you have to actually admit it to yourself. That you have to actually admit it to yourself. And I remember coming home from college and I just felt like I just didn't belong there anymore, but felt like I didn't have a choice. And I was so angry that that was what I had to do. And I had to have like a little conversation with myself. I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do? Spend the rest of the year being pissed off and angry? Like, how is that actually that's what you want to do? And I just had to say to myself, okay, so it's 1 year. And I know everybody's done this a million times where you X out the days of the week and all of that. I actually couldn't X out 365 days. It was too long. So I would just do months because that was a little better for me. And in the end, it was like 18 months, but I could see an end. I could see where it was going. And that was easier. But I have to say, over the years, you know, look, I'm 64. I've had this happen to me so many times, you know, first with that, then like I was in like, you know, a friend group and that's sort of disjointed. Then I was with like a mother's group, which of course we all got together because we were moms, not necessarily because we all connected, but because we were moms. That was the commonality, right? And then all of a sudden, like the way they raised their kids was so completely different than the way I did. And then it sort of starts to break off also because really what connected you is the fact that you both had infants, not that you had this like moral high ground that you both agreed to. right? So when those things become apparent, you have to allow yourself the ability to go without being caustic or mean to the people that you're leaving. You know, do it with
That's
grace.
brilliant.
Right? You do it with grace, and but the thing about it is, you hope that the people that you're leaving from will give the same grace to you.
You just pulled that thought out of my mind. Do we have any control over that? Zero. So
No,
yeah.
no, we don't have any control over it, but forgetting the fact that we don't have any control over it, that's their journey. And I'm going to tell you something else that is not part of this chapter, but it's something that I truly believe, is that we are meant to navigate our own path, and we're here to learn lessons, right? If you go and give first aid to somebody who we feel aren't doing the right thing, and we want to go help them navigate their path, that's not for us to do. We might think it's for us to do, but most of the time that backfires. And it doesn't even work for our kid or with our children. We're not meant to navigate somebody else's path. We're meant to navigate our own path and to give grace to them to navigate theirs. And I have to say, for friends and family, both, sometimes it's very hard to do that. Because for me, lots of times I feel like I can see where it's going. And I've lost friends a couple of times because I've actually shared it because they were really close friends to me. But they weren't really ready to hear it. And that was before I learned I have to ask if you want to know, not just share what I know. But you know, it's a learning curve for everyone, you know. And even in your book Swaddled, you know, like in your book Swaddled, what you're talking about in that book and that conversation about new moms and the information that they're given, many times that information is given to women, whether you're having a child, whether you're getting married, whether you're getting engaged, from other women, because they almost want to have you feel the pain of what their experience was. It's like yeah. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. There's so much to the comparison, and then yeah, I love everything that you were just riffing on. And Patty, I chuckled. I don't know if I was on mute or not, but when you said something along the lines of, you know, when you go and do something like grow or something, and you outgrow a community, right? I mean, that is why we're here, is to grow. And I agree with you entirely about the importance of a community. And then I also think it's okay to, not okay to, it is going to come at some point, that time when you outgrow. That everything has a shelf life. That's not a bad thing. I mean, whether it's groups of friends in high school or business partnerships or whatever the heck it is, it's okay. It's not
Well,
to
it's
say
very interesting that you say this, because one of the only reasons that I could stay married to my husband was this ability that, like, here he is, here I am, right? And so there are times when we're like this, and then there are times when we're like this, and there are times when we're like that. You know, all the different combinations. The difference is, when, for me anyway, in a marriage, is that I know that there are those times. Like, I didn't go in there thinking that we were going to be best buds all the time, 24/7. Like, I sort of knew that it was going to evolve. And I actually am grateful that we evolved so differently and yet we stayed together. And that's why when people tell me how different they are from their spouses, I almost chuckle, because that's probably why you're together. Because when you have that, it gives everybody the ability to evolve without stepping on each other's feet. And this understanding of growth is an individual thing. And I just wanted to touch on one thing, if it's okay, about groups, is that when you are unsure of who you actually are, you want to be in a group that's going to lead you, because if you are in this space where you're in a group where someone else is leading, well, that's your feedback. That's your mirror, right? It is a much scarier thing to be alone, and actually be the mirror is your reflection. And I'm not saying that because the mirror is your reflection that you shouldn't be in a group. I'm just saying you always have to ask the mirror, your own reflection, your own intuition, your own self, what you actually think about something. And then there's the voice again. Not be afraid to use your voice to share. Oh, this doesn't really work for me.
And this is why I come to the book club.
Yes.
Because it's like 30 minutes of wonderful nuggets of wisdom. It kind of refreshes me.
Yeah. But don't you think so? I mean, you join a group because you want to be with like-minded people, right? But if everybody is only thinking in one direction, and that's what's like almost revered, right? Then if you think in another direction, you almost feel like you have to stay quiet.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, some groups are like that. So Patty, I'm curious of all of the chapters in this book, and I'm so glad that you asked the question, the first question, because I almost didn't come because I didn't feel prepared.
Oh no, this is how it goes every time, and it's short and it's sweet, and we chat a little bit about this, and then we'll begin next time. But go ahead.
I've read, like 3 or 4 chapters, so I was glad that you asked the first question. But my question back to you is, what about chapter 38? Like, why did that pop out to you? Because I'm wondering, do you right now feel like you're doing a really good job at putting your voice behind things, or do you feel like you needed to remind yourself of that sort of optimized state? Because as I've stopped writing, as my manuscript is being worked on, I realize when I'm not actively writing now that I'm missing that action of putting my voice behind things. So how do you feel you're doing right now with that?
I'm personally doing okay, but I'm noticing more in the world that people are not. And I'm noticing more and more that, excuse me, that people are trying to show up as something they're not. They're trying to put out content, whatever it is, whether it's social media content, a book, a program, whatever you want to call it, that they're using words like authentic, transparent, clarity. And Robin and I have had this discussion many times. Those 3 words to me mean you're lying to me, because you can't just say honestly who you are. So which person are you today? Are you the transparent person who's like got, modeling this new version of you? I'm just seeing more and more of that not being true. And it's what spoke to me about that. And I've been reading between this and chapter 19, like back and forth. So the next time we have our book club, I'm going to hit you up with 19, just fair warning.
Okay.
Read it twice. Okay.
But yeah, that's where it is. That's what made me do it.
I just wanted to show you the oracle card that goes with this chapter.
Oh, I love that.
It's beautiful.
I love that.
It just speaks to this whole idea of being the creator in your own life. And the expansion of it is that everything is a muse. no pun intended.
Haha.
And that everything is an inspiration, and that people you speak to in situations that you're in, books, things that you see, are inspirations and muses for you. And when you're a creator, it's not so much about writing it all down. It's about allowing yourself the ability to take it in and be a receiver of it all. Everybody always thinks it's about what you have to do with it. I have to paint, I have to write, I have to this. And so I wanted to speak to the fact that you're missing the writing. And I wanted to tell you that you're in a place right now, Sarah, of receiving. When you're in the place of actually writing, you're in masculine energy of doing.
Yeah.
And right now you're in a place that you get to receive information and let it sort of like coagulate within you and see what comes out of that, and not be so stressed about what you have to produce. Instead, be in this space of what do you get to receive, and what do I make of that? What do I make of that?
Yeah, it is completely opportunistic, and I'm just not used to it. Yeah. So Patty, is your forthcoming book, is that part of the trilogy that I knew of?
It is book three in the trilogy. And then from there, we go into individual compositions of each of the characters for books 4, 5, and 6. So it's the original trilogy. Book 3 is coming out, and that's what's killing Robin right now. But I'll tell you what, Robin, I'll make you a deal, and if I'll do it for the next book club, and I'll actually bring the 3, and then I'll talk about all 3 together. How does that?
I would love that. And you could share the cover. That would be so awesome.
Yeah.
I would really love that.
I just got chills.
Oh, well, thank you. I hope they're good chills, because you
They
know,
are.
I write action adventure with a dash of empowerment and a dollop of the supernatural.
You know what was so funny is that Patty and I were doing like last year we were doing all these like book tour things. And so she would be talking about her book, and I've read her books. And then I'd be talking about my stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, those are your characters. And I didn't even know her when she wrote. I mean, I knew her, but I didn't know about the book, and I didn't know about the characters. But there's just so much interweaving that goes on when you start to look at things from a spiritual perspective, and you read about a book that has that underlying theme to it. And I just think that's very cool. You take a memoir and you take a fiction, and yeah, it's very cool. I don't want to take up your whole night. I know we went longer.
Thank you for this. This has been amazing. Thank you
So
so
I have a
much.
question. I don't know if both of you have any other questions or anything like that. I don't want to leave you with anything hanging. If there is anything, let me know.
I'm good.
Are you good?
Me too. I'm fulfilled. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for introducing yourselves on Off the Page. I really appreciated that. If you know anybody that you think will enjoy this, just invite them. You have the power to do that. You're a member.
Thanks, y'all.
Will do. Bye.
Good
All right.
night.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.